Myself, Coach Retzlaff, and Chef here on the crossover. We're bridging formats, breaking ADP. Use FastDraft promo cross. Get a first-time deposit offer up to $50 matched. For Darnell Mooney, he just got hurt. It looks like he's going to miss some time, most of training camp. DJ Chark just gets signed. He's my first player listed here. Here are some price points. Expect a drop in ADP for Darnell Mooney, but I'm going to go into the pivoting differentiated prices so we can just scale down from here. Underdog, wide receiver 48 at the 7-8 turn, has been going near Emeka Ibuka, Brian Robinson, Josh Downs, Patrick Mahomes, and Jordan Mason. That price is going to plummet. You're going to find Mooney fall down behind them. FFPC, Mooney goes in round 9 as late as round 10, so expect a discount into the earlier double-digit rounds on FFPC. Great pairing still with Michael Penix. We're just going to have to wait a couple weeks into the season for this to pay off. FastDraft right now in the Rabbit. A new tournament just dropped, $10. Go on in there. The 9-10 turn. Right there with Emeka Ibuka, just behind Travis Etienne and Mark Andrews. Very attainable. In Dynasty Superflex, round 13 with Stephon Diggs and Cedric Tillman. So take your pick there. I don't think much is going to change on a Dynasty front because this is a short-term injury. But at the same time, there's a price point there. If somebody's having a startup, it can be fickle as I'll take the guy who's healthy and somebody like Stephon Diggs. Cedric Tillman, something did pop up, but I think I saw something that he's going to be okay. So it might be Diggs, Tillman, and Mooney for right now. In redraft on FFD at the 908, in a real ugly spot is Mooney, Cam Scatbo, Javonte Williams, Ramondre Stevenson. And again, you can't get away from Emeka Ibuka. So my draw from all of this, as I'm talking about the different price points, is you're going to be able to get Emeka Ibuka tied to Chris Godwin, or not Chris Godwin. Well, he could be with Chris Godwin, but Baker Mayfield, who's been singing Ibuka's praises. And now you're only going to be able to get Darnell Mooney a couple of rounds later with Michael Penix. So you can separate them. That can create a different build for you. That's the most obvious thing that jumps out. All the players who I spoke to in the different ADP ranges, you can now separate Mooney and get him later and create a different team. So people who stay away from Darnell Mooney and don't get the discount aren't going to get the benefit of him in 2025. So maximize that benefit and buy the dip on Darnell Mooney, and now you'll get him in the tier separate from all the players in all these formats as I listed. Chev, tell us a good word on Tucker Kraft.
Well. So Tucker Kraft is, to me, one of the most intriguing players and a real pivot point player for me in 2025 because of the fact that he's so cheaply priced and he checks off so many of these boxes in terms of what I want from a tight end. Does he just catch and fall down like Zach Ertz? No. Okay, cool. He led the league in yards after catch last year, and George Kittle was second by over 3 yards. You know, George Kittle averaging 6 yards after the catch, Tucker Kraft averaging 9.38, which led the league by a wide margin. And now we're able to get him on Underdog as a tight end 11, going off the board 120, basically pick 122. And he's right in between J.J. McCarthy in our single quarterback contest and Ramondre Stevenson. And if I'm able to, I could even decide if I wanted to. You're going to roster more than one tight end in best ball. So I could go with an early George Kittle build and get a Brock Purdy stack. And then I could also come back and get, I could build around a Tucker Kraft, backdoor Tucker Kraft, maybe a Jaden Reed, and able to get Jordan Love and have both of those stacks just competing with each other. And I think that this is my guy to break out of the position. Now, on FFPC, going off the board, pick 99, basically right in between Michael Pittman and Jerome Ford. Give me Tucker Kraft all day long and twice on Sunday. Then we move over to FastDraft, and we're talking about Tucker Kraft, and he's going off the board. Oh, this is actually the D-Up contest. I didn't want that. I don't want that. I want the new rabbit. I want the rabbit. Give me the rabbit. So, Tucker Kraft, my apologies for that outburst.
Hey, everybody, just so you know, Chev doesn't want the D up. All right, keep going.
I want the D down. Wait, what? Okay. So Tucker
Hey,
Kraft going off
we're
the board.
breaking ADP here. We're breaking ADP.
Hey, we're breaking ADP. Yeah. So Tucker Kraft going off the board right in between Tyrone Tracy and Tyler Warren. Now, Tyler Warren is another player that intrigues me greatly, but I do trust the quarterback throwing Tucker Kraft the ball infinitely more than I trust the quarterback, whoever the quarterback's going to be in Indianapolis. So give me Tucker Kraft again there. And then last but not least, in redraft, this might be the biggest crime here. He's going off the board as a tight end 12. Okay. 10-4 currently in the FFD redraft ADP between Jordan Mason and Tajay Spears. Sign it, lock it, seal it, deliver it. I want Tucker Kraft in as many formats as possible this year because I think that he is the rare tight end that gives you a decent floor on limited volume, but with a massive tight end one on a weekly basis upside if he just gets a little bit more volume. So sign me up for all the Tucker Kraft love that's humanly possible, and I'll just profit. And if you listen to me, this is not financial advice, but we're going to profit. Okay? So Tucker Kraft, buy. No incentive.
And if you end up getting that positional advantage and you take that scoop and that shot, you get such high asymmetrical upside when you scoop a late round tight end like that and they pay off in the top 3. So if you end up getting Tucker Kraft, like you say, you'll have such advantage on the league to where war value, if you pay up for Trey McBride, Brock Bowers, even George Kittle, you get a 6th round ADP, 7th round sometime differentiator on Tucker Kraft, and he matches. And then in those earlier rounds, you're able to, in round 4, and it might be round 3 now, but Omarion Hampton instead of George Kittle, you're swapping out those players in those ranges, and you're getting that war value profit, as you were saying, Chev. So big ups to you there on Tucker Kraft. Banging the drum. I'm telling you, it's going to be week 3, 4, somewhere in the season where he's hitting his stride. And we're going to be real happy. We'll be retweeting on X, quote tweeting you, all the takes you've had, and getting real excited for you. And you'll, of course, be bricked up and being consoled
I'll
somewhere
be in the cement aisle.
in the cement aisle. Yeah. We'll be on our couches watching, and you'll be somewhere in a store just wandering around. Intercom, does anybody know this man? Can they get him home? And then they'll see something in your phone like, oh, hey, call Coach Retzlaff. He'll come get you and save you. But buy up on some Tucker Kraft. I love that take there. Now let's go over to Jackson Dart. On Trade Gods, we discussed a trade with Jackson Dart, talking about his value into next season. Underdog right now. This was a fun one. Round 18, QB 33. So he's neck and neck, Jackson Dart, with Russell Wilson. Here's a QB he's ahead of. So it's like, hey, he's behind so many. He's actually 33rd ranked, which, if there's 32 jobs, you figure he's that close to pushing somewhere into those late 20s, right? Joe Flacco, Shador Sanders, Kirk Cousins, Joe Milton, Deshaun Watson at 216 somehow has an ADP, just got placed on the pup. Dylan Gabriel. So the entirety of the Cleveland Browns quarterback room, you can get Dart for nothing. FFPC, there's no ADP. I was really shocked about that. I was in a 125 single QB draft, one of the main events that they have on FFPC. Dart went super late, somewhere between round 18 and 20. So he's selected, but no ADP there. So for free. All right, you get waffle fries for free. You get Jackson Dart for free. No ADP. Anthony Richardson goes ahead. Speaking of quarterbacks who we've been concerned about the quarterbacks for some of the weapons in Indianapolis, Anthony Richardson goes ahead of Dart. So they don't even put Dart printed on the screen if you look up the FFPC ADP. FastDraft, another one, going undrafted. This is where I think you can get some of the best value on him, because if you want to be contrarian in a 15-round draft, Jackson Dart is the way to go, because I would suggest getting an elite quarterback and doing a custodian build where you click Dart as your second quarterback. You're really probably going to want 2 tight ends, 2 quarterbacks, and stuff the room with receivers and running backs split somewhat evenly, maybe off by one, right? So I would just do that. You get mass variance versus a field. So I would suggest trying this if you want to take some stabs. Go and get Jackson Dart on FastDraft on the Rabbit. QB 24 in Superflex, FFD, round 806. He's ahead of, ready for this? And this is in Dynasty. So this is interesting. It takes a totally different turn. Tua, he's ahead of Tua Tagovailoa, which you cannot buy on the other platforms right now. Ahead of Dalton Kincaid, Brandon Ayuk, David Montgomery. The common theme of those players, they all have injury. So Dart at least hasn't been hurt. Rookie ADP, QB 2. Dart is the second quarterback after Cam Ward. Not saying a lot for this class. At the 201 on FFD ADP. I've seen 201 to 205. FFD has him as a hold, which I think is smart. Very little liquidity right now for Jackson Dart. In redraft rankings, again, you can't find Jackson Dart. So all that is to say, on so many platforms, you can profit immensely. Just visualize week 7 onward. Russ Wilson does the opposite of Justin Fields, starts the season, and then Dart takes over instead. I see an opportunity big time for Dart to pay off his upside. He'll be printing points where he's getting undrafted and not on your fellow draftees rosters. You can get him requisite share and have an opportunity to have leverage against the field. So that's something we look for. Speaking of leverage against the field, we want to make sure in our high stakes contest, we have the sharpest ADP, and we're talking FFPC in some of these. Here's the Podfather telling you about the FFPC.
Hey, why do we partner with the FFPC? Because they have the widest variety of fantasy football formats, and it's the easiest place to find all types of fantasy football contests in the world. What if you want to play for high stakes? Well, they have a $6 million prize pool with their Fantasy Players Championship. They also have way too early best ball leagues that start in February and Dynasty leagues. They have the closest thing to a liquid market for orphans that there is in all of Dynasty. And the FFPC has sponsored us for half a decade because we are actually delivering information that can help fantasy gamers, and they're generating so much interest and bringing in so many new users, casual users even. The FFPC creates a unique experience where you can both compete against the best and make money. Use promo code UNDERWORLD to get $25 off your first team. $25 off your first team at the FFPC with promo code UNDERWORLD. Go get it!
So we've talked about different ADP price points where you can profit. FFPC has opportunity. Very sharp drafters, very sharp market, but there's price differentiations that we've talked about in prior shows where the price is best for any kind of player in the range that we would discuss. Jawan Jennings was one of those players who showed value a couple weeks ago on FFPC. Somewhere where he spiked up immensely is Ken Walker. Ken Walker has spiked up immensely on FFPC. So it goes both ways, but get out there on FFPC. I've enjoyed some of the drafts that I've done. It is high stakes. So of course, do what you can, not what you can't. Tell us, Chev, can you get us excited about Caleb Johnson? You had told me a little scary story that I tried to block out of my head. What's going on with Caleb Johnson?
Listen. We're talking about a guy who's 6 foot, he's 225 pounds, he topped 22 miles an hour on the GPS, and now he goes to a known establisher of the run in Pittsburgh with Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith. So right now he's going off the board as the RB23, which is he's up 8 spots just week over week on 4for4 ADP on Underdog, going off the board 68, pick 68, basically pick 69. Nice. As the RB23 off the board. And I think that's appropriate. Now, if I had a different play caller than Arthur Smith, I would be smashing, double, triple, quadruple smashing, okay, some Caleb Johnson. The problem is we saw Arthur Smith take a guy like Bijan Robinson and slam him into a committee with Tyler Algier. Now, as much as I love Caleb Johnson, he's no Tyler Algier. I mean, he's no Bijan Robinson. That's not a slight on him. That's just how special I think Bijan is. But let's move on pick 66 off the board on FFPC currently, going in between Travis Hunter and Chris Olave. I like the certainty that comes with Caleb Johnson and the risk aversion. So if I'm a little thin on running backs when I get into the sixth round, I could see myself very easily clicking the button there, and it's a much more stomachable, if that's a word, palatable.
I knew what you were doing.
Yeah, I have much more joy in my plums when I click the button on Caleb Johnson as opposed to Travis Hunter and Chris Olave. So then we move on to FastDraft, the new rabbit competition that just dropped. It gets a little bit trickier, but not for me because I'm a Jalen Waddle denier. He's going off the board at pick 63, and he's right in between Jalen Waddle and Sam Laporta. Now that tight end over there in Detroit, I could get behind selecting some Sam Laporta, but never Jalen Waddle, not even if there's a fire. So
I'm burning it up, man. I'm burning it up, baby.
Hey, I'll be there to put you out when you're there for contrition. So I'm clicking the button there on Caleb Johnson, pick 59 on FastDraft, the rabbit competition. And then in Dynasty, he's going in between, in redraft, he's going in between Sam Darnold going in between Derrick Henry and Colston Loveland in Dynasty, the 607. Okay. That to me is how we accumulate generational wealth. Now, this ADP is considering the fact that he's the RB19 in Dynasty, going off the board between Derrick Henry and Colston Loveland. This is tight end premium superflex ADP. So in a single quarterback, you can bump that up probably by about 2 to 3 rounds potentially. So in that scenario, it's a little bit more tricky in a startup, but I do want as much Caleb Johnson as I can possibly stand in Dynasty. And then in redraft, he's coming off the board as the RB28. So we've got a lot of disbelief in 2025, a lot of disrespect to the Arthur Smith offense, deservedly so, might I add. So he's going off the board in between Tony Pollard and Chris Godwin at RB28. Okay. So I firmly, wholeheartedly, Shevdor Sanders, approve this message of clicking the button at running back 28 between Tony Pollard and Chris Godwin. I might split the portfolio a little bit more, and I'll have a little bit more Tony Pollard, almost no Chris Godwin, especially with the news about his second ankle procedure being done. So Caleb Johnson was a player that I wanted to discuss here because I want to get your feedback and how you feel about what potentially his outlook is for 2025. I've provided the bearish case a bit. Let's talk about the bullish case, my guy.
Hey, my bullish case is what's on the field, who's on the field. I can feel it down in my plums. Nice and juicy. Ready for market. Caleb Johnson is going to be paired with Aaron Rodgers. I see Aaron Rodgers feeding him in the pass game for easy dump offs. I feel like we're going to get the Najee Harris rookie season. I remember there was a game where Najee had something like either 17 catches or 17 targets. It was insane. And I beat my opponent death by 1,000 paper cuts. It was plenty of targets to Najee Harris, just dump off city, right? I see the same thing happening with a competent Hall of Fame quarterback in Aaron Rodgers at this stage of his career. He can absolutely dump it off to Caleb Johnson. Caleb Johnson is going to be the primary back. I see him being in there on third down. I see Warren being able to split in a couple series here and there, but inside the green zone, the 5 on the goal line, it's going to be Caleb Johnson. So I see a ton of touchdown equity going. I see receivership opportunity happening for Caleb Johnson. And prior to the Quinshon Judkins issue, they were neck and neck at ADP. And I just see so many things stability-wise, ironically, with Aaron Rodgers going right versus the Cleveland Browns situation. So I am all about the positives on Caleb Johnson, and I try and get him to connect back with me. Sometimes I'll go overboard and go ham at running back where I get 3 in the first 4 rounds, and I try and get a 4th running back and have that be Caleb Johnson. Problem is when you run the board of Bijan, Brees, and Hampton in the first 4 rounds, the way your draft works, the other 11 people, guess what? They want some running backs. So to your point, somebody like Caleb Johnson is there. I would love to get overkill 4 running backs in those first 6 rounds. That would be
Mm.
beautiful. I would love to see somebody who could connect on that. So I'm all about Caleb Johnson, man. Are you bricked up? Do you need Tums? Talk.
That's a
What do you got?
T for testosterone. 4 running
Beautiful.
backs through 6 rounds
Yeah.
is the definition of high T.
Yeah, I'm all about Caleb Johnson. And prior to you telling me reminding me, of course, about Arthur Smith, I've just been absolutely bullish. I really go back to it's funny, Chev. You talked about. I remember you were real high on Caleb Johnson prior to the draft. The draft hits. There's a slight lull because, of course, we had the combine and Hampton hit out and did so well. But I think you're just getting a cheaper opportunity in somebody like Caleb Johnson. And you go back to watching him at Iowa. You go to how he's just going to fit on an NFL team, AFC North, and the Steelers who love to run. Everything is lining up for Caleb Johnson to smash his rookie season. He is somebody that I confidently click. In the click lays how you feel, right? You click, oh, I went Zay Flowers. I don't love that, even with Lamar Jackson at ADP.
Yeah.
I've been clicking this next player that we'll talk about in a moment, plenty, and loving it. But before I go on to Kenneth Walker, I've been clicking a ton of Caleb Johnson, and I feel great. So the hesitance that you feel, eye test, lie test, click test is the best test. I click, and I feel good post-click clarity on Caleb Johnson. So with that said, I go back to the well for round 2, round 3, several other rounds of getting exposure up to Caleb Johnson. Here, the next player, Chev, Ken Walker, underdog right now, RB5 or round 5, sorry, as the RB16, right with Chuba Hubbard, just behind Devonta Smith and George Pickens. We love us some George Pickens. FFPC, pick 36 at the 3-4 turn, just behind Marion Hampton and Marvin Harrison Jr., just ahead of a falling Rashee Rice. Check out Trade Gods, which will have air. We have a Hampton for Rice trade in there. You'll want to hear more about that. Big teaser. 46 catches for Kenneth Walker. So he's Nick Chubb, who can catch passes. 11 games last year, a sneaky PPR play. So this is pricey, it's expensive, but it should tell you FFPC gamers are sharp to Kenneth Walker. So take the round 5 pick on Underdog. On FastDraft at the 4-2, falling behind Alvin Kamara just before Mike Evans. It's fair to split and triangulate your exposure between those three. But I would actually be tempted to go, hey, Alvin Kamara, Ken Walker, and I actually lean just more bell cow usage and ceiling season. I can see it happening for Kenneth Walker over Alvin Kamara. I think everything's going to play right. It's just a matter of availability. Best ability is availability. It's not a matter of in redraft RB14 at the 402. FFD has Ken Walker as bullish. And as much as I don't like Walker due to his health, and I've had this go on over the offseason, I love the talent and I'm getting closer and I want to risk it. As we approach August and you get to redraft season, that's another click test. You start getting these players and you're like, all right, I see this guy on the clock. I'm clicking him. I'm confident in him. I've had 300-400 drafts. I've had different startups. I've had different rookie drafts. Any type of iteration, it's just bleeding out of your ears how much you've been drafting and selecting and evaluating players, shuffling ADPs. You get closer, it crystallizes in August. And this is one of those players that's crystallizing for me in Dynasty. RB20 in round 6. That's really your best value on him, one of the cheaper prices. Caleb Johnson has snuck just ahead of him. FFD has Walker as a buy. So I'm there too. So I love what you had said about Caleb Johnson, and I have a different level of high as well on Ken Walker. These two players, if one gets selected, I'm taking the other in a draft. That's kind of where I'm at right now. Chev, get us bricked up. George Pickens.
Oh, buddy, I've been waiting. I've been waiting for just some sort of reliable quarterback play for a guy that's been my guy that I watched short circuit embarrass me in front of the Garden Tools in real time in week 18 against the Bengals when the guy who I've juxtaposed him against went for 170 yards and 2 touchdowns. So George Pickens here finally has solid quarterback play going off the board right now. Underdog pick 48, right in between Cortland Sutton and Jamison Williams. Honestly, right there. So he's wide receiver. I'm around wide receiver 24, 25, if I'm not mistaken. And so I think that there's a T. Higgins-esque ceiling here, but I also am very bullish on all three receivers in this cohort right here, this 3-pack. So I'm splitting the difference. If I've already tapped the button on receiver a couple times when I get to pick 48 right there, the end of the 4th round, I'm probably going to click the button way more on Jamison Williams and George Pickens because they represent a higher upside to me. So
Yes.
I love that price point. He's up 1 spot last week over week from last Friday to this Friday when we're recording this. He's up 1 spot. I think that there's just a massive opportunity for him to smash this ADP. So then we move on to FFPC, some of the sharpest gamers in all of fantasy, high stakes leagues. He's coming off the board at pick 55 between RJ Harvey and Joe Mixon. Sign me up. Wholeheartedly, full stop, no equivocations. Pick
No
55.
equivocation. Yep.
No equivocations, none whatsoever.
0. You could say 0 or none, you know?
Yeah. You could say 9, as they once said in Germany. I think they still say it, maybe. I don't know. I haven't been there lately. You let me know next time you go to Berlin. So then we move on to FastDraft, the new rabbit competition. He's coming off the board again between DK Metcalf and Cortland Sutton. Sign me up. I love the outlook. This is like being able to get a guy like T. Higgins in between DK Metcalf and Cortland Sutton. I'm telling you right now, this is the breakout for George Pickens. This is it. This is the opportunity. All he has to do is just not do crazy stuff, and we profit. Now, is there a greater than 0% chance he's going to do just some insane wide receiver, the enemy speaks softly and carries a knife type stuff? Shout out to Denny Carter for that. Is there a chance that happens? Absolutely. So that's why he's priced here and no longer a Pittsburgh Steeler, is because sometimes he just short circuits himself and it ruins the football for everybody. And then Dynasty and redraft, love these price points. He's going off the board in redraft between Travis Hunter and Xavier Worthy at the 5'11", wide receiver 29, the FFD redraft ADP. And for me, that is a steal. That is an absolute steal. I'm much more bullish on him than I am Travis Hunter because I don't know how many snaps on offense Travis Hunter is going to play. I know some of you guys are going to hop in the comments and say, well, Travis Hunter is the second coming and iteration of Justin Jefferson, and his reception perception was all green, and it was the best that I've seen since Odell Beckham Jr. Like, stop it.
Chev, how can you do that voice? How can you do the voice, Chev? Anything but the voice.
Listen, you start getting too nerdy and too certain about things that haven't happened yet, I'm going to make fun of you. So I'm making fun of all you guys right now that are saying that Travis Hunter is the second coming of Justin Jefferson and the highest selected wide receiver since Calvin Johnson. Shut up. Okay? Stop it. Okay? He's a really, really, really good player who was selected number 2 overall because he is the rarest of rare unicorns. But give me the guy who's going to play 100% of the snaps on offense every single time. Full stop. Doubling down on the no equivocations.
None.
No equivocations. You see all those?
Zero.
Look at all the equivocations I don't give. Anakin?
There aren't any. And how about this? Cherry on top. People don't like to consider this or think about it. It's a violent game. CeeDee Lamb misses any sort of time.
Oh.
George Pickens is a 1A in a printing money offense. So there's so many scenarios that can really work out. I actually think since they don't cross over Lamb and Pickens in their skill set in the high volume, the 10 targets for Lamb and the 10 targets for Pickens, give or take 1 or 2 for each of them, is really not going to matter. Where we could see some difference is in the red zone luck, the touchdown luck, which varies year to year. And let's just paint a picture where George Pickens has more of that on his side than somebody like CeeDee Lamb. It's not crazy or out of the woodwork to say something like that. So absolutely, I like where your head's at on George Pickens, and he's somebody who, if you're building running back early and you're in that Caleb Johnson range, approaching that, you want to get yourself some George Pickens. If you've loaded the boat and gotten receiver heavy, you can go look for the Ken Walkers and the Caleb Johnsons. Granted, Ken Walker is going up there in price. So very fun show, Chev. I love what we talked about. The markets and the prices of these players are always changing, but how we can go and draft, we can be malleable and change with it, be fluid. If we're fluid with the change, we can adapt well and we can thrive and we can print money. So there's just different ways, different price points that you can find the benefit in all these games we play. There's crossover between the Dynasty game, the redraft, and the best ball streets. All these games you play, you're shorting yourself if you're not playing a little bit of every type of brand of fantasy football outlets. Get a little best ball, get a little redraft, keep your leagues, Dynasty. It keeps you sharp for just different strategies. So this is a crossover. We will see you next week.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to PlayerProfiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, Data Analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.